T-minus 10 minutes. T-minus 9 minutes. T-minus 8 minutes. T-minus 7 minutes. T-minus 6 minutes. T-minus 5 minutes. T-minus for minutes. T-minus 3 minutes. T-minus 2 minutes. T-minus 1 minute. Stand by.
How about that?
Are you there?
Hey, have you got me now? Hey, let's go. Hey, we'll talk about it after the show, but we're ready to go. We are off and running. Mitchell Scruffy Blair is here in the place of Moose. What's happening, Scruffy? What's happening?
Nothing. Good weekend. Riders win. Everybody's happy. No ball game last night because of rain. We move on.
Okay, well, exactly. As you see, Mitchell Scruffy Blair, the award-winning journalist and broadcaster, is our co-host for the next 40 minutes, and we're good to go. Dave Soupy Campbell's coming up from Edmonton in hour 2, the color voice of the Edmonton Elks. As you know, Scruffy, we do this every day, the Quick Six Show topics, and we open with the big story. Listen, Mitch, you're not a Blue Jays fan. If everybody doesn't know that, we know that now. You're a Cubs fan. But Toronto righty Kevin Gausman will be on the mound tonight when the Jays open an important 3-game set against the visiting New York Yankees. The Jays, who lead the AL East by 3 games over the Yankees, will face New York lefty Carlos Rodon. Jays coming off a sweep of the Giants, picking right up where they left off prior to the All-Star break. And you, sir, I'm not going to throw you under the bus. I didn't see this coming. Nobody saw this coming. Your thoughts on Canada's team, the Toronto Blue Jays, my friend?
Nobody did see this coming. I want to see what Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro do at the trade deadline. Roddy, I'm still not convinced this team's going to make the playoffs. The Yankees are going to get guys, and I think guys that have not been through this before, like Nathan Lucas, Addison Barger, Ernie Clement, as the games get tougher, do they have the mental toughness? We're going to find out. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., can you start doing something, please? Like, I know he hit a home run yesterday, but they need more of that down the stretch if this team is going to win. And I'm just not there yet when it comes to the Blue Jays. They got a Yankees team a couple of weeks ago that was injury depleted. That team has gotten their act back together. They beat the Braves this weekend, a couple of games. I think this is going to be a lot better Yankee team that shows up at Rogers Center this week than what showed up 2 weeks ago.
Scruffy's here. He's a hot take machine. He thinks the Jays could still miss the playoffs. And there's, listen, they very clearly could. But I'll say this, and I have a very fun poll question for EMJ Marketing, which is coming up here, by the way. But everybody's talking, not just you, about Vladdy and his numbers being down and so forth. And as we all know, that generally happens when guys sign a new deal. But would you not say, Mitch, you being the learned sportsman that you are, and I wouldn't have you on here if I didn't think that you were, if you're in first place and you're as on fire as the Blue Jays are, that tells you how good of a team they are. That it's not just Vladdy or George Springer or some of these other guys that are getting hot at the plate and getting hot in the field. It's lesser lights that are carrying them to glory. What happens when Vladdy does get going?
Then they take off. And there's no doubt about that in my mind that they will take off. But Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Roddy, when you look at his career, when there are games that it doesn't matter, that's when he goes 3 for 5 with a homer and 5 RBIs. But when it comes down to crunch time, he doesn't get the job done. And the other day, on Saturday, I think it was, bases loaded, 1 out, looking for runs. Vladimir Guerrero hits into the 6-4-3 double play. In the first inning of a game Sunday, he hits a home run. Go back to their last playoff appearance. What did Vladimir Guerrero do? He got picked off at second base because his head wasn't in the game. He's more interested in dousing somebody with a tub of cold water after the game than he is with his play on the field, and he has to grow up a little bit. I haven't seen that from him this year, and I think Blue Jay fans who are happy with where this team is because of some of the lesser lights coming through, they want to see Vladimir Guerrero hit 350 down the stretch and get them into the playoffs. Put that team on his back, get them into the playoffs, and then go from there.
Rob in Las Vegas writes in and says the Blue Jays with 10 straight home wins ties the longest in franchise history. Oh, yeah, most wins prior to the All-Star break in franchise history. This team is doing historic things, and that's why I wanted to throw you under the bus, but I can't because we're such great longtime friends. Nobody saw this coming, so I'm not just going to point the finger at you. Now, the poll question for EMJ Marketing, we're kind of up against it with time, but I'll throw it out there, is quite simply this. Is baseball making a comeback? Because last week we had Matt Stairs on, and while he's against robotic umpires, ABS, putting a runner on second base in extra innings, he's kind of okay with the pitch clock. But Mitch, the numbers are up. The ratings are up. In Canada, when the Blue Jays are winning, that's a fantastic thing too. But my vote is yes, and 57% of respondents are saying yes, baseball's making a comeback. What are you voting?
I highly agree. I highly agree, Roddy. You've got maybe the best group of young players in the game today. And you've got guys like Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge. You've got guys like Mike Trout. But you've also got guys like Bobby Witt Jr., Gunnar Henderson, PCA, Pete Crow Armstrong, the center fielder for the Cubs. There is so much young talent in Major League Baseball today. And with social media, when you can go on to Twitter, Facebook, streaming, whatever, and see what these guys are doing on a night-to-night basis, how isn't it growing the game? How isn't it making it better? These guys are fantastic to watch.
And it's not just at the major league level. I was on the radio in Edmonton this morning, Sports 1440. They had 8,500 fans at that stadium in downtown Edmonton. They used to call it Telus Field. I don't know what they call it now for the Riverhawks. They had 7,700 in Okotoks for the WCBL All-Star Game Saturday night. You and I both know that after Canada Day, the ballparks are packed in the parks that you and I work for, Curry Field and Ross Wells Park. So it's not just the majors. Baseball as a sport is making a comeback in a huge, huge way. Tony from Cochrane, Alberta, writes in. He says, I agree 1,000% Scruffy on Vladdy. You see what I'm seeing. Immaturity is his biggest problem. Well, he's rich and immature, if that's a thing.
Yes, he is.
North Texas Mean Green writes in. He says, a little off topic, but since you have Scruffy on, I stumbled upon a clip that he used to do play-by-play for the Pats on Cable Regina. Mitch, was this a frequent occurrence back then? Yes, we all did Pats games back in the day. I'll answer it for you, Mitch. Anyways, we're going to get to CFL, NFL, NHL, NFL flag. That's what's coming up on the other side of this break, everybody. It's the warm-up, and we're live on the Game Plus television network, streaming live and found on all major podcast platforms.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw-up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with The Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw-up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Rocking and rolling here in the warm-up live from the Golden Ticket Sports Center. The text line is open for Western Dodge, 902-518-3033. Scruffy's with me, by the way. Gary in Winnipeg writes in, he says, MLB viewership is up because NHL and NBA seasons are over. When NFL season starts, viewers will shift from baseball to NFL football. That's from Gary in Winnipeg. Kirk in Toronto writes in, he says, hi, Rod. Manufactured runs wins many games, not just home runs. Vladdy does need to pick up his hitting game, though, with this massive contract. The city is buzzing right now. That's why we open with the Blue Jays. And, Scruffy, there are questions that have come in about teams other than the Blue Jays addressed to you, but just hang on. We'll come back as we go fast here in the warm-up. I'm switching over to CFL now. That's why a lot of people have come here today. Kenny Lawler hauled in a touchdown pass. Trayshawn Ward and Ante Milanovic-Litra each rushed for one, and the visiting Hamilton Tiger Cats won their fourth straight CFL game with a 30-15 decision over the Ottawa Red Blacks on Sunday night. Cats quarterback Bo Levi threw for 327 yards as the Ticats improved to 4-2. That was the capper of Week 7. The other scores: Montreal over Toronto 26-25 in a thriller. Calgary bombed Winnipeg 41-20, and Sask beat BC 33-27. I have my thoughts, but what are yours? You're the guest coming out of Week 7.
We've got a quarterback problem in the CFL because none of them can stay healthy. Zach Collaros, we don't know how bad his injury is. Considering his past, would it surprise you to see that he's going to go on the 6-week injured list? We probably find out about that later today. Davis Alexander has gone on the 6-game list after re-injuring his hamstring. Drew Brown, we don't know what's happening to him after that hellacious hit he took last night in the Hamilton game. We've seen Trevor Harris miss a game this year. We've seen Nathan Rourke miss a game this year. I think Vernon Adams Jr. and Bo Levi Mitchell are the only quarterbacks that started the year with their teams that have played every snap because they haven't been injured. And I don't think anybody else is in that. Well, I guess Trey Ford, would be in there, but we've seen Cody Fajardo. But we got to find a way to protect the quarterbacks. And I just don't know if the O-lines are just substandard now compared to what they used to be or what it is. But the CFL, and people talk about the product and whether or not it's entertaining, when you don't have your number one quarterback in there, Roddy, it's not entertaining. And we'll see what happens. But that was sort of my big takeaway. It was also how much Calgary destroyed Winnipeg, and really the Riders with a great bounce-back effort against BC in a game that really BC was never, ever in.
So here's my thoughts on all of that. Bomber Boy writes in, he's in Calgary. He says, Rod Squad and Moosaholics assemble. And Scruffyholics today. Jeff, the Stamps fan, says, the Stamps are simply the best. Tell me I'm wrong. I dare you. Shy in Saskatchewan says, is Collaros done for the season after that head plant? Meanwhile, the Bomb writes in, he says, the hit on Drew Brown was so dirty. And Robin Vegas says Damian Alford is 100% going to be in the NFL next season. The guy's a beast. That's the number one overall pick of the Calgary Stampeders. So, Scruffy just said when the number one quarterbacks aren't playing, it's not entertaining. And that's true. But what we saw, and you also aren't winning. I feel like Zach had a chance. Bombers had a chance as long as Zach Collaros was healthy. Ottawa had a chance as long as Drew Brown was healthy. The second he went down in that game, nothing against Dustin Crum, but he wasn't getting it done. However, what we saw Saturday night at BC Place Stadium was, to me, Mitch, the CFL at its finest. Trevor Harris, Nathan Rourke going toe-to-toe. How many bombs away? Huge hits. Oh, it was the best. Good crowd. And listen, just for fun, I put on Facebook on our page, The Rod Pedersen Show, are the Riders the best team in the CFL? Of course, predictably, people lost their minds. 24 hours before that, I put on Facebook, are the Stampeders the best team in the CFL? And people lost their minds. The fact of the matter is, it's a fun debate. And it sure got people talking. Who is the best team in the CFL?
Calgary. No doubt in my mind, it's Calgary. What they have done the last 3 weeks, they have taken out arguably the second and third best team in the CFL. They've taken them behind the woodshed and given them a spanking. Double-digit wins, a pair of them over Winnipeg. Yes, one of them when Collaros got hurt. They came into Regina after a night where they sat around not knowing if they were going to play. Then they had all that stuff go on about where they're going to stay and everything and their preparation. And then they come out and they just boot stomp the Riders. Right now, Calgary's the best team in the CFL, without a doubt. And as long as Vernon Adams Jr. is continuing to play the way he is, I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Jeff, the Stamps fan, says there is no debate, Rod. It's not even close. I'm not going to argue, and Mitch just said the same thing. If you are going to say that Calgary and Sask are the two best teams, and Calgary came in here and mollywopped them, motorboated them, then Calgary's the best team. I'm just having fun with it, okay? Can we all just back off the ledge? They're two very good teams, and it's also July. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. We're just a third of the way in.
Yes. Yeah, well, exactly. Oh, there's so many comments coming in. The text line is flying, 902-518-3033. Oh, again, I love
And
talking
Rodney,
CFL. Go ahead.
let's just go back to the Blue Jays comment. Where were the Blue Jays at the first third of the season? They weren't very good.
No.
Right. So now we go to the second third of the season, and they're right there challenging for a playoff spot, which just shows you, right now, Calgary, head and shoulders the best team in the CFL. But we're only a third of the way through. A lot can change in the next, 12, 14 weeks.
Of course. But why does Pat McAfee call it overreaction Monday and all the we all jump to conclusions in the first third, the middle third, the last third? This isn't when it really matters, but it's certainly fun to talk about. I got to stay out of the comments because they're distracting me, and that's not hard to do, as you know. There's a lot coming in on YouTube, and, of course, a ton on the Western Dodge text line, 902-518-3033. But I was on the radio in Edmonton this morning. I think I mentioned that earlier, Sports 1440. And they asked why the turnaround with Calgary. And I see there's a lot of comments coming in from the viewers on that. And I know your mind's racing on to answer that. I got to say that it's just Vernon Adams. Now, last summer, I don't know football as well as I know hockey. I saw Calgary was bad. I wasn't putting it all together. I called some of my football guys in the States, guys that were CFL guys, and I said, what do you see? And they said they don't have talent. They're not that talented. That's what it is. In less than a year, Mitch, they flipped it to the degree that they've already matched their win totals, that they've injected that much talent, but they've changed the quarterback in Vernon Adams. This Alford, the number 1 overall pick, is big. Derek Moncrief has played. So maybe they did infuse talent. Is that what it is? Why has Calgary flipped the script from worst to first in a year?
Well, I think part of it is the talent that they had. I'm not a big Jake Mayer fan, Roddy.
Yeah.
I just don't think, that they were succeeding with him. Dave Dickinson did not forget how to coach. Dave Dickinson finally got some tools, and Vernon Adams obviously there. I think maybe the biggest addition for this team was Bob Slowick as defensive coordinator. Because I don't think anybody saw this Stampeders defense playing the way that it would. I think a lot of people knew that Calgary would be better with Vernon Adams Jr. at quarterback than Jake Mayer. I don't think anybody knew what type of impact Damian Alford would have. Let's remember he's done this without Reggie Begelton because he's hurt. Clark Barnes, a very good addition to that squad, who was there last year. But that defense, I don't think anybody saw this defense being what it is, and I think you've got to give a lot of credit to Bob Slowick for that.
It's something you could talk about for hours, and maybe we will, because it's July and we're Canada's daytime sports talk show. What else are we going to talk about? Right? I knew we were going to have fun today, and we are having fun today. I do have some NHL notes to get to and some NFL notes as well, but it's Canada. What else are we going to talk about right now other than Major League Baseball and the CFL, because that's what's going on. Tennis and golf, sorry, but get out of here. But, you look at Brent Monson. This is the one thing that I spend way too much time thinking about. In sports media, because you and I have both been fired multiple times, media is not much different than sports, folks. You sit there and you wonder why. I didn't do anything wrong. Brent Monson's a great coach. Why did he get fired? Or Mark Killam, he's going to do great things up in Edmonton. Look at Munson's doing in Hamilton, Mitch. Nobody's talking about the Ticats. Jim Barker's got him picked to win the Grey Cup. So it's not like Brent Monson is a bad coach. But when it's time, it's time. I'm trying to land my plane on that. You know what I'm saying? So when your time's up, it's up. When your time's up, it's up. There's a million examples of that across sports.
I don't disagree with that. And I think sometimes people need a new start. I'm not going to sit here and say that Mark Mueller was a disaster in Calgary, because he wasn't. But Mark Mueller is succeeding. Did he need a new start? Well, some could argue, yes, maybe he did. What about Corey Mace? He was doing fine in Calgary, but he wanted a chance to succeed as a head coach. He's doing that. There's a lot of people around the CFL, the NFL, the NCAA. Sometimes they just need a new start. And when they get that new start, they thrive with it. They run with it.
Graham's watching in Calgary on Game Plus television on the Western Dodge text line. He writes in 902-518-3033. Heavily underestimated Calgary. I think we all did.
Yep.
I still have Edmonton 5th, and that's nothing against them. It's just who are you going to beat out in this bunch? I think I had Winnipeg, Sask, BC, Calgary, Edmonton. And there's a lot of football left to be played.
That's the way I think I had it too.
Gary in Winnipeg writes in, he says, the ironic thing in the CFL is that Calgary's only loss was against Ottawa. Yeah, and they were awful in that game. That was the weather game. That's what made me think. I was on the radio in Calgary a couple of weeks ago, and leading up to the Smoke Bowl, and the host, Jock Wilson, said, are these the two best teams in the CFL, Sask and Calgary? I'm like, well, I know one is. But I saw that Calgary team against Ottawa where they couldn't tie their own shoes. You know what I mean? And then they come in and mollywop the Rough Riders. So none of it makes a whole lot of sense. Fake Gainer writes in, hi, Rodfather. Amped for this upcoming week of CFL action. Whatever reason the Elks play lit at Mosaic Stadium. Hope to see Scruffy there. Signed, Brother Sasko, formerly known as Fake Gainer. Well, I'm not prepared to sit here and talk about this week's games yet. We're still coming out of the weekend. And we have a guest here. His name is Mitchell Scruffy Blair, and people want to talk to him. Laverne writes in from Swift Current on the Western Dodge text line. He says, oh, Scruffy, do you know how hot Milwaukee is? They're right on the tails of your Cubbies, and I think the Jays are going to be just fine. What about other MLB stuff, Mitch?
Well, I think we've got some great pennant races. Milwaukee and the Cubs are going to be one of them. The American League East is going to be one of them. Seattle took 2 of 3 from Houston this weekend. There's a lot of good teams out there, Rod, and because of that, there's a lot of teams that are they haven't decided yet what they're going to do with the trade deadline coming up, and it's going to be interesting to see what players move, what the price tag is for those players, and then how those teams play with those new guys in the lineup, because sometimes it works. Sometimes, as you know, it doesn't work. It's a very interesting time of year. The trade deadline, 10 days away, the end of July. It's going to be a very interesting 10 days for teams like the Cubs, the Brewers, the Dodgers, the Blue Jays, the Mariners, the Twins. Who sells? Who buys? There are some teams that are going, you know what? We like what we've got. We don't need to do anything. Okay, let's see how it works.
Tony from Cochrane, Alberta writes in. He says, I love me some worst to first stories. My Blue Jays and Stampeders. Perhaps there's hope for my Browns. Oh, I guess we could talk about the NFL. Yeah, it's not a comedy show, Tony. It's not a comedy show. Browns are going to go to first place. In what? Shy writes in. He says, the weather has been beating the home teams for wins. Smoke Bowl and Sask, sure. Rain out in Calgary. McMahon, that game against Ottawa. You're right. The weather has affected the home teams. Odd. We'll continue this with Scruffalicious when we come back here live on Game Plus TV.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with the Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more. There's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste savor, share. Promotion, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina. This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with the Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Welcome back, everybody. It's already the final segment with Mitchell Scruffy Blair, good enough to help us out this week with Moose on vacay. He's actually back here in the wheat province, believe it or not. Western Dodge text line is open, 902-518-3033. Western Dodge, proud partners of the RP Show. Big city selection with small town service. We're talking baseball. We're talking CFL football. I want to get to hockey with Scruffy in this segment, but point three, as I move on to the NFL, here's the headline. Unless you can think of a bigger one, Mitch, this is what's popping up on the wire service. U.S. President Donald Trump is threatening to hold up a stadium deal for Washington's football team if it doesn't restore its old name. Trump said yesterday on his social media site that the Washington Commanders should revert to the Redskins and the Cleveland Guardians should return to the Indians. Later, he threatened the NFL team's stadium deal. I'm only talking about it because people are talking about it. I'd rather talk about the games. And I have thoughts on this, but I'm wondering, you've heard this story. What are your thoughts on it?
More bluster from someone who is just unstable. Like, what am I going to decide to go at today? That's all I have to say on this. Like, I'm so tired of this guy.
Good. Then I'll move on to the only thing I'm going to say, but it's just dumb. Like, I mean, Joe, our guy Joe, was reading me the headline, and I my first thought is, do you not have something better to do running a country than threatening the Washington Redskins with their stadium? And just so you know, as everybody knows, I'm a resident of both countries, Canada and the USA, and people in Canada hate the U.S. because of Trump. Just so you know, they don't like him down there either. And don't say, well, you voted him in twice. That is true. But he wasn't this kooky. He wasn't this kooky. They didn't see this coming. I absolutely believe that. Shy in Saskatchewan writes, and he says, what does Trump have to do with the NFL? Well, I just told you if you were paying attention. Now, to hockey, just because, I've got 0.4, Mitch, of the Quick Six Show topics. 1 week ago was when it came down, the orders announced that goalie coach Dustin Schwartz wasn't coming back, nor was Paul Coffey. There's not a lot of hockey news right now. Like, thank God I got an email from the NHL this morning, like we all do as fans, signed up at NHL.com. Here's the preview on the Minnesota Wild. They signed Vladimir Tarasenko and Nico Sturm and went through their thing. That's just fake news. That's what I think is, you're just making up news for the sake of news. because there's nothing else going on.
How can you say that, Rod, when Ryan Reeves got traded from the Leafs? Come on!
And he wasn't even playing anyways, but I get that. I get what you're talking about. But because I have you here, and why people love this show, specifically the hardcore viewers that we've had for so long, is that we're real, we're boots on the ground, and we're sports people, not some fluff people in a suit, or an expensive outfit. We're real. And I'm in a hockey town here. I'm in Moose Jaw. It comes up almost every day, Mitch, about the major junior players, specifically Gavin McKenna, the Medicine Hat Tigers, bolting to Penn State for, let's say, $700,000 US per season. NIL money. I've heard different figures, but let's go with 700. And how that's going to affect major junior hockey. I'm sorry, we're a Canadian show. They love hockey. They're not as much paying attention to junior hockey and even less paying attention to college hockey in Canada. They don't realize how big this is. Your thoughts on that? It's massive, but I don't know how many people in Canada know or care.
Yeah, guys like Gavin McKenna, Cole Reshny, Kenton Verhoff, I think is his name. Those guys going down to the NCAA, that hurts the Canadian Hockey League. And those are just 3 players from the Western Hockey League I've mentioned. What happens when Landon DuPont turns 18? Is this going to be another case where a projected number 1 pick overall is going to be playing his draft year at a U.S. school? I think that there's a problem here. And I know that the CHL president, and I forget his name right off the top of my head.
Me too, which is a problem, but continue.
Yes, I agree. He spoke to the NHL Network yesterday about this issue. I saw this morning just before I came on that Darren Dreger has an idea as to how the two can sort of coexist. I haven't read that article yet, but let's call a spade, Roddy. The Moose Jaw Warriors, the Prince Albert Raiders, the Swift Current Broncos, the Prince George Cougars, the Medicine Hat Tigers, they don't have that type of money. And I don't know if any Western Hockey League team does unless they've got substantial ownership, like the Regina Pats. And even then, I don't know if Queen City Sports and Entertainment would want to pay guys the money that maybe a school might offer.
That's a hard no. That's a hard no. Right. They're not going to want to be paying.
Yeah, and I just wonder what the viability of junior hockey is, especially in small market locations, is going to be when the best players are no longer there.
It's calamitous, actually. And when I'm going to be in Calgary in the next few weeks, I'm hoping to get some time with Craig Button. But I saw him on SportsCenter, and you probably did too, TSN's scouting director and former general manager of the Flames, saying, this will not be a mass exodus of junior. No. But if the best ones leave, even if it's only 5 to 10, that's a massive catastrophe for major junior hockey. But Craig is a stakeholder of junior hockey, so he's just trying to calm everybody down. But it's like, come on. It's a major deal. Allie in Texas.
Robbie, we all know.
Yes.
So I was just going to say, we all know that like Western Hockey League, Canadian Hockey League teams like it, when the commissioner goes up to the podium and says, X is drafting Gavin McKenna from the Medicine Hat Tigers of the Western Hockey League. And now it's going to be X is drafting Gavin McKenna from Penn State.
Sure, and they get all wound up about that. They say that's the biggest reason why Connor Bedard wasn't traded out of Regina, and I'm not going down that road. But it's all about money. And the thing is, the NHL, the majority of the teams are in America. The head office is in New York. Let's say it's an American league. And as somebody told me shortly after I moved to the States, this is America, Rod. Money matters. It's not like Canada. That's not fair. Everything needs to be equal. Not in America.
In the words of the great J.R. Foley, Roddy, money talks.
Money talks, Mr. Whalen. And, by the way, before I let you go, and for the next 40 minutes after this, it'll just be me and the audience, viewer takeover. But one big conference in U.S. college football. How long do you think, how far away are we from one big conference? So we're not arguing about who's better, SEC, Big Ten, ACC even, because Clemson's had their run. How long before this happens? One big conference. We don't have to worry about all this fiddling around.
I think we're a ways away from that yet. I think as long as we've got the college football playoff and determine how that's going to work for the satisfaction of everyone, and I don't know if it ever will. I think as long as we've got that, we're still going to have the Big Ten, the SEC, the Big 12, stuff like that.
Well, that was wrapped up very succinctly, and you're probably right, but do you not think it would be better? Because what I've heard, one 64-team league, four 16-team conferences.
No.
Mitch, uniform regular season, let's say 10 games. Uniform playoff, no more selection committee, and all the BS that goes around that. One uniform NIL deal, potentially a salary cap down the line. Doesn't it make too much sense?
Not in the next decade, Roddy. I don't see it happening.
And why?
I think that with a lot of variables out there, like the TV contracts that the networks have with the different conferences, and I just think that there's always going to be an argument if you have 4 16-team conferences. You're going to have some that are going to say, well, Texas has a weak schedule this year, that's why they're not, or Alabama has a weak schedule. Let's just play the games. Let's just play the games and see where everything pans out. Because at the end of the day, we're probably going to see Texas, Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Michigan. We're probably going to see those 5 teams, just like in baseball. You're always going to see the Dodgers and the Yankees in the playoffs. We're always going to see those teams. Does it really matter how they get there?
I guess not. Okay, we got the Trump comments, got people riled up. What a shock. And thoughts on our poll question today and all the rest. Okay, Mitch, thanks so much for jumping on. It goes fast. Appreciate you, man.
Not a problem, Roddy. Take care.
We've got a sports update coming up right after the break, and viewer take over the rest of the way. We're live on Game Plus Television, streaming, and found on all major podcast platforms.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with the Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with the Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
All right, welcome back, everybody. It's the RP Show on this Monday, episode number 1538 of the RP Show. You'd think after a while we'd stop counting, but why? We're here in Season 7 on Game Plus Television, and it's going fantastically. It's a different, like last Monday, if you remember, it was screwy. Everybody was writing in, the viewers, and it was distinctly negative. And I said, let's all just take a shower, wash off today's show, and come back Tuesday far more positive. And we did that, and we had a great rest of the week. Today, people are zany, but not negative necessarily. But I brought up the thing about Donald Trump threatening the Washington Redskins. That was in the news. Listen, I don't like to talk politics at all on this show or out in public. But I brought up this fact, and you know when you bring up Donald Trump, and frankly, any politician, but particularly him, it's polarizing either way. So Darcy in Grand Prairie writes in, and he says, seldom wrong and right again, Mr. Trump. I think I'll change the channel today after that little Trump rant, and I'm probably not alone. Then bye-bye, Darcy in Grand Prairie. It was nice seeing you. We'll see you tomorrow. And anybody else that wants to change the channel. I'm sitting here trying to straddle the border as a citizen of both countries, and I don't like the fact that the Canadians are causing problems for you Americans causing problems for Canada because of one guy. I'm just trying to settle everybody down. That's all. That's it. And I have to deal with it every day, and I got in a huge fight shortly before I left Florida to come back to Canada for the summer with my neighbor. And it was unfortunate because we met every morning. A bunch of us met every morning by the pool. Just you normally talk about sports, and it was awesome for me because I'm not going to name this guy, but because he's probably watching the show. But it gave me a really good indication of what show topics are, similar to me going to the gym and listening to guys in the locker room or going to the coffee shop. This is what these guys were talking about. We talk sports all the time. And then the one day he went down the political road, and 3 times I said, I don't want to talk about it. I won't talk about it. I won't talk about it. And then it ended up in this huge fight. And then like a week later, I was coming back to Canada. But we haven't talked, and it's like, it's too bad. It's too bad that we can't discuss these things rationally, but that's where we're at. Darcy in Grand Prairie Rising says, see ya. You're still watching. You said, I think I'll change the channel, but you didn't. You're still here. So don't come at me with the empty threats. And if that's the way you're going to be, don't come back. We don't need you. 902-518-3033. Gary in Winnipeg writes in. He says, CFL teams that win the turnover battle in a game are 17-2 this year. A very telling stat. I would submit that that's not new. That's not, there's 3 factors. I went over this, I think it was with Scott Schultz in a recent interview. Ken Miller pointed it out back in the day, Grandpa Miller. 3 factors that decide a game. Turnovers being one, big plays being another, 20 yards or more, and there was a third. Somebody help me out with that. And actually, Kenny had it written in a like a circle, like a pie thing, or like no, it was 3 circles. And if you morph them together, if you have 2 of those 3 things, you'll win the game. If you win the turnover, it might have been sacks. If you win the sack battle, 2 of these 3 factors, if you win 2 of the 3, you'll win the football game. Turnovers, big plays, and sacks. I want to say that's what it was. Something to do with line of scrimmage. The poll question today has to do with baseball. I mean, yeah, Canada's on fire with the Blue Jays. But it's not just Major League Baseball. We're done talking, Darcy and Grand Prairie. You said you're leaving, so goodbye. Stop texting. Goodbye. The Blue Jays are on fire, and I'm going to get to that in the sports update here. So it might not be the best time to say or ask the question, is baseball making a comeback? Because now up to 62% of respondents in our poll for EMJ marketing are saying, yeah, baseball is making a comeback. But we could have said this last year and had the same result, I think. It's not just because the Blue Jays are winning. If you weren't watching earlier, Edmonton, the park formerly known as TELUS Field. I don't know what they call it now. But you know the one, right when you're driving into downtown Edmonton, it's right there. Beautiful ballpark. 8,500 Saturday night for a regular season game for the Edmonton Riverhawks. And then in the Western Canadian Baseball League, 7,700 are in Okotoks in the park Saturday night for the Western Canadian Baseball League All-Star Game. That's not the majors. We're playing to sellouts here in Moose Jaw. We got the Red Sox in town tonight. Baseball, I have to give them so much credit. And it's funny because we had Matt Stairs on last week, World Series champion, Major League Baseball record holder, and we talked about these changes to baseball. The pitch clock, 12 seconds to get your pitch off, putting a runner on second base for extra innings. Now you don't see 18, 19 inning games anymore. Who wants that? Nobody. And then the robotic umpires and the ABS, the challenge system, he's against that. But they brought it in anyways. The old school people, the purists, it just reminds me so much of the CFL and the advancements we'd like to see come into the Canadian Football League. The NFL is making their changes too, for the better or for the worse. I don't know. But there's no returns in the NFL anymore. Yet, the TV ratings are higher than ever. The attendance is higher than ever. So what the NFL is doing clearly isn't turning anybody off. But for the purposes of baseball, that's what we're talking about here right now. And the attendance has never been higher at all levels, and they've adopted these innovations in the other leagues. So I want to say bravo to baseball, because I don't think it could have been easy for them to bring that in. Sports update for Cool Bet Canada. The Toronto Blue Jays are back in action tonight, hosting the New York Yankees for the opener of an important 3-game series. Toronto holds a 3-game advantage on second place New York in the American League East. The last time the two played, the Jays swept the Yankees in 4 games to take the division lead. The Milwaukee Brewers look to extend their MLB best 10-game win streak tonight when they visit the Seattle Mariners. Milwaukee's coming off a 3-game sweep of the Dodgers. The Brewers are tied atop the National League Central Division with the Chicago Cubs. The Hamilton Tiger Cats are now the CFL's highest-scoring team. They beat Ottawa 30-15 Sunday night for their 4th straight win and 2nd in a row over the Red Blacks. The 4-2 Ticats lead the East and have scored 188 points, 7 more than Calgary. That might be, as a matter of fact, it will be tomorrow's poll question here in the program. Which team is a mirage? And you know what I mean by that. Isn't what they appear. Is it the 4-2 Ticats? Is it the 5-1 Stampeders? Is it the 5-1 Rough Riders? And throw in a 4th, whoever that might be. Somebody here is masquerading. Somebody's not for real. Or, let's say the Stamps, the Riders, the Ticats. Those would be the 3. Or if you want to flip it the other way, is Ottawa wearing a mask at, what are they now, 1-5? Is Toronto wearing a mask at 1-5? Montreal, it's very clear. I believe they're 4-2. But if Davis Alexander plays, they win. If Davis Alexander doesn't win, they lose. It's pretty simple. There's a reason Jim Barker has his 5 Grey Cups, and I believe is on the CFL on TSN panel. Listen, I haven't seen him on there recently either. Every week we get a half a dozen texts. Can you ask Jim Barker why he's not on TSN anymore? No. I don't ask him that privately, and I'm sure the hell not going to ask him that on national television. He should be on there, but he's not. I don't know the reason. I honestly do not know, because the guy knows his stuff. And he's picked Hamilton to win the Grey Cup over BC. Can I just remind everybody, we're 1/3 of the season in. Somebody's not going to be left standing at the end of the 18-game regular season. One of these teams isn't going to keep the pedal to the metal. I don't know who it is. Who do you think it is? I'll say Hamilton. Scotty Scheffler thinks the comparisons between him and Tiger Woods are a bit silly. The 29-year-old Scheffler won the British Open Sunday with a fist pump that evoked memories of Tiger Woods for his 4th major title and 3rd in 2 years. Scheffler and Woods are the only players in the last 50 years to win 2 majors in the same year by at least 4 shots. The sports headlines are brought to you by Cool Bet Canada. Get a welcome bonus up to $200 with the promo code RP200 at coolbet.com. The Bomb writes in, he says, Ottawa looks rough. The Argos have Chad Kelly coming back soon. So maybe it's the Argos or a mirage. There's a lot of teams. I wouldn't be writing off anybody at 1-5, whether it's Ottawa or Toronto. I wouldn't be anointing anybody either. You want to crown their ass, then crown them, as Dennis Green said. One of those is they are who we thought they were. Problem is, we don't know who that is. John Ohm has showed up, everybody. He says MLB made the changes to bring in more fans. It's working. And all the other leagues too. That's my point. Love working in baseball like I do. And as far as I'm concerned, we don't have the pitch clock in the WCBL, but we need to bring it in. These 3.5-hour games are ridiculous. We had some 4-hour games last year, but we're still selling out. There's something about baseball, and it's cool. It's really cool. We will continue this discussion going on the other side, and Dave Campbell joins us, my longtime friend Dave Soupy Campbell. He is the color voice of the Edmonton Elks, but he can also hold his own in a discussion about the Edmonton Oilers and anything NHL related. Dave Campbell coming up in hour 2. And they want to sit back and they want to throw haymakers. Not having it. Just brought up Trump and the Washington situation. We'll continue it after this.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Famoso, Italian Pizzeria and Bar. Taste. Savor. Share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with the Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more. There's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
Okay. Oh, this is going to be good. Trust me. And you don't even know what's coming. Not that it's anything real salacious or anything like that. But I said we were going to have fun today, and it's too bad that Mitch had to adjourn as quickly as he did. But he's good on here, eh? That Scruffy, he's good. Longtime friend of mine. We opened the show because the Moose is on vacation out here in the Wheat Province. Well, what should we do? We got some people fired up and didn't mean to, but that's a gift of mine. Firing people up and not meaning to is just a God-given benefit of knowing me. Here's one before I get into what we've been talking about and the quick six show topics here. Bill is watching in Newfoundland on Game Plus television. Bill in Newfoundland. He says, "You are doing a great job, Rod. You got the Riz. You even got me watching the CFL." And that's the emoji that he put, the smiling emoji, the wow emoji. It's a surprisingly watchable product. Who knew? Hang tough. Oh, listen. You can't scare me. You can't hurt me. I got no feelings. I've walked through the fire. You got to get up really early, man, to rattle me. So and why are we talking about this? Allie in Texarkana writes in and she says, "I am going on vacation next week and I can't wait. LOL. I'd like to go on vacation, but you know what? Who's kidding who? I sit here and talk sports every day for 2 hours. It ain't. It's not like I'm roofing. It's not like I'm actually doing physical labor. So, yeah, take a holiday from what? The quick six show topics, as I mentioned. The big story is the Toronto Blue Jays. Our Toronto viewers are writing in and saying the city's on fire. Oh, I can't even imagine. Maybe I'll go to Toronto. Toronto righty Kevin Gausman will be on the mound tonight when the Jays open an important 3-game series against the visiting New York Yankees. The Jays, who lead the AL East by 3 games over the Yankees, will face New York's lefty Carlos Rodon. The Jays have a 35-16 record at Rogers Center, while the Yankees are 25-25 on the road. That is the big story. Where is this going? Like belly buttons, everybody's got an opinion and a prediction. But nobody really knows. And that's why we have to tune in. I haven't seen ratings. If somebody wants to tell me what the ratings data is for all Canadian sports, I'd love to know. I'd even know where to go to find it. But I'm sure it's the highest it's been in a long time. CFL, .2, Kenny Lawler hauled in a touchdown pass. Trayshawn Ward and Ante Milanovic-Litra each rushed for one, and the visiting Hamilton Tiger Cats won their 4th straight CFL game Sunday night winning at Ottawa 30-15. Yeah, watch the game. The whole country's watching the CFL too. It was perfect because the Jays game started at noon Sunday. I had time for my first of 2 naps Sunday afternoon, and then turned on the television to watch the late game, Hamilton at Ottawa. Late, you know what I mean, 5 o'clock out here in the wonderful Mountain Time Zone. But it is CFL center stage, and it's the guy, Bob, and am I sitting here trying to tell people to watch CFL? I'm not. Bob's like, you even got me watching it. I'm not holding a gun to your head, even asking you to watch it. But if you do, you'll like it. That's the thing about the CFL. And that's where, I was on the radio in Edmonton this morning, and the guys were saying, what do you think of this Luke Wilson guy? Which everybody is asking. And I wrote about it in my column. It's available right now at rodpedersen.com, 10 Things column, which I haven't brought up here, but I brought up in the column. On Friday, or all week last week, I was sitting there, it was starting to dawn on me. I'm like, I can't wait till Friday night to see what Luke Wilson has to say on Friday Night Football. And I said, whoa, I can't remember the last guy. Like, I love Biznasty, Paul Bissonnette, but I don't really care what he has to say on the NHL on TNT panel. Or who's the last guy or gal that you're like, I can't wait to see what they have to say? Now, he really toned it down Friday night on the broadcast, which I watched when Calgary had their way with the Blue Bombers in Winnipeg. But his flight was late. He lost his luggage. They had to go buy him a suit on the day of. He was frazzled, and that's not his fault. I would have said, was there only one flight from Toronto to Winnipeg? But whatever. Maybe go a little earlier the night before. Is that too? All I'm saying is I love what he has to say. I don't agree with all of it. Doesn't mean that we have to hate each other. Doesn't mean I have to cancel him or try and get him fired, which is what so many people try to do to me. If you want to know why I quit with the bold, brash takes, I was tired of fighting everybody, including my bosses and the CFL and the other teams. And, people are saying, Rod's making the Riders look bad. That's not my intention. I'm just telling you what I think. I'm speaking from here. I was never trying. That's what I like about Luke Wilson. He's speaking from here. And his thing with this hot garbage stuff, he says that these CFL games haven't been perfect. Well, guess what? Are you? I know I'm not. I'll tell you right now, I'm not perfect. I'm not even close. Doesn't make me not lovable. You're all watching right now, even though I'm not perfect. We love about the CFL the fact that it's perfectly imperfect. The NFL is almost too perfect. A lot of NHL games are too perfect. CFL's not. It's zany. It's kooky. Pat McAfee was right when he said it's state fair football. Nothing wrong with that. So Luke can have his take and say hot garbage. That one's going to stay with him forever. Hot garbage. Like, it may literally stay with him forever. Like me, people are talking about this Twitter war that Luke Wilson's got going on with the former voice of the Rough Riders, not me. And, there's some not flattering things on the internet about him. So I typed in, what's Rod Pedersen's legacy in the CFL? ChatGPT. You can do it yourself. And it came up. Respected voice, decades-long voice of the Rough Riders, but controversial. He called out opposing players. He called out opposing fan bases. All true. Yep, not going to lie about that. And even said in there, most famous iconic call was Bo Levi, shut your mouth. And I'm like, I would take that back. I don't want to be remembered for that. It's like my good friend Jamie Feasel, who was the coach of the Melville Millionaires. What's he remembered for? And he doesn't like this. A clip that went viral. He got kicked out of a hockey game, junior hockey game as coach, and he put on glasses and turned a stick upside down like a blind man at the refs. That was all across TSN, shared everywhere, and we all thought it was funny. He doesn't. That's not what he wants to be remembered for. And he told me that. He's like, stop bringing that up and stop sharing that video. You can say whatever you want about Bo Levi, shut your mouth. I don't care. But that's not what I want to be remembered for. And I don't think Luke Wilson wants to be remembered for the hot garbage comment, but that's what's sticking to him. We can't speak for what's going to stick to you. Now, the other thing coming out of the weekend was just for fun. Can we please have fun? Friday night, I asked if the Calgary Stampeders on Facebook are the number one team in the CFL. 346 comments on that. The very next night, after the Rough Riders had their way with the BC Lions, which they did. Are the Rough Riders the best team in the CFL? Hundreds of come. It's just fun. Can we not get wound up? Some lady wrote in, God bless her, can't remember her name, Brenda or something. And she is like, you were the voice of the Riders. How dare you say Calgary's the best team in the CFL? Get away from me. Get away from me with that energy. Similar to this, point 3, U.S. President Donald Trump is threatening to hold up a stadium deal for Washington's football team if it doesn't restore its old name. Trump said Sunday on his social media site that the Washington Commanders should revert to the Redskins and the Cleveland Guardians should return to the Indians. Later, he threatened the NFL team's stadium deal. So I brought that up. Scruffy and I discussed it last hour, and Trumpers got upset with what I said. And I'll say it again here. Like, I am apolitical. I will vote because it's my democratic right, and I do it for really only one reason, to honor the war veterans and the war dead. They gave their lives, so we have that right. That's the only reason I do it, and it's not like I don't follow it, but I will vote. Never going to tell you for whom. And doesn't matter what you say, somebody's going to be mad. So it's just, I really got turned off in the springtime because, again, I live in Florida in the winter, 9 months, and there were clashes in these retirement homes. Well, 55 plus doesn't seem that old anymore. It used to feel real old, but Canadians against Americans, they're fighting, they're yelling, and I'm like, whoa, that we are all fine up until the middle of January. And then they were at war. That's wrong. And if you're going to get upset because I said, don't you have better things to do running a country than threaten the Washington NFL team? If you support making threats, that's fine. You don't see me making threats. And if you want to threaten to change the channel, I would say go ahead and change the channel, but you never did because you're still here. Not you, him. 902-518-3033. That reminds me, the poll question today came out of that Blue Jays talk at the top of the hour. Is baseball making a comeback? 62% saying yes, it's making a comeback. I love it. I am very blessed. Yeah, I do have the gift of pissing people off without trying. The other is riding the wave or jumping on something just at the right time. I'm working in baseball now in both Florida and here in Western Canada, and I love it. And what a great time to do it. Just ride the wave, man, for as long as it goes. Kirk in Toronto writes in and says, hi, Rod. Nothing like summer in the city. Blue Jays, Argonauts, C&E food building, the beaches, and much more with the one downer, the horrible traffic. Yeah, I can't do anything about that. Be like Moose and live close to the public transit. John writes in from Rosetown, Sask, 902-518-3033, and he says, Ottawa's 1-6, by the way. Sorry, I said 1-5. Either way, it's not good. They'll probably turn it around, the Ottawa Red Blacks, but that hit on their quarterback was nasty. Not a dirty hit, but helmet squirted 20 feet in the air. I was watching it. I couldn't believe it. And the second that happened, their fortunes sunk. Scruffy was right. The entertainment factor goes down when the marquee quarterbacks aren't playing, and your chances of winning go down even further. That's not good. John in Rosetown goes on to say, Luke Wilson is very entertaining. Everyone is so soft today. The answer is no, we can't have fun. It's a problem. Woke Karen energy runs wild everywhere. Not necessarily. Here's the thing. Luke Wilson isn't backing down. And I'm just checking. Yeah, it's 11:11 Mountain, 1:11 Eastern. We always, you're surrounded by angels. You know that. You're protected. You're safe, just so you know. The woke energy isn't like it once was. You know, Sean Lemon's coming back. He was reinstated by the CFL. Arlen Bruce IV is going to probably, I hope, be reinstated by the Canadian Football League. Although, find it interesting that 55% of the respondents to our poll question on Thursday, should Arlen Bruce IV be reinstated by the CFL, despite betting on games in college, or betting in college, I'm not sure if it was on, 55% of people said no. But I'm just saying the woke energy isn't totally gone away, but I think it's going away. And back to Luke Wilson, he's got the backing of the CFL. The commissioner has said that. He clearly has the backing of TSN, so why would he change at all? I didn't have the backing of those people, just so you know. I was fired by the CFL from writing for the website. I was the original writer here for that website. Nobody remembers that but me. And being hauled into the boss's office on the reg for things that I said on the radio. Like, I don't need to go down this, but Rough Riders used to have a problem with the fact that all winter long I was trying to get their people on my radio show when I was in Regina as the voice of the Rough Riders. And I got called in by the station manager. Why do you keep asking the Rough Riders to come on your radio show in the dead of winter? They're due a break, too. They say you're only doing it for ratings. Do you want to repeat that? How's it sound when you're saying it out loud coming out of your... I'm only doing it to get ratings, and you're the manager of the radio station. Do you want to walk that back, or... I wasn't around much longer after that, but yeah. Well... Scott in Moose Jaw writes in, he says, you're like that famous song, Drop It Like It's Hot. You rock. That's open to interpretation. He goes on to say, that's why Deron Carter was awesome. Outside of his character, of course. Listen, I'm around Deron a ton in South Florida. He was the receivers coach with the high school team that I do some work with. And we'll be doing more work with this fall. And, Deron. I hope that he makes a comeback in football, if he wants to. Just for those that know, the son of Chris Carter, the former Rough Rider, Deron Carter, is working with World Financial Group in South Florida. He's a father of a young child, married, and doing okay. But Deron just had his own beat. Fans loved him. He was very magnetic. He just had a tough time showing up on time for anything. And maybe after this break, or later on, I'll tell you my favorite story about Deron. I'm like, Deron, have you worked out this winter at all? Rod, let me tell you my theory on working out. I feel the heart only has a finite amount of heartbeats in it, and I'm not going to wear them out in a gym. It's your life. Still the best player in the league, so yeah, you do you. And now he's coaching young men. Okay, get your comments in for Dave Campbell from Ched Radio Edmonton and the color voice of the Edmonton Elks. All Edmonton sports, CFL sports, NHL, whatever you want. Dave Soupy Campbell coming in next from Ched Radio, 902-518-3033, Western Dodge text line, or the YouTube chat. You're watching live on Game Plus Television, streaming live, and of course, we are always found on all major podcast platforms.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with the Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more. There's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live. Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
Welcome back, everybody. It's the RP Show on a Monday. Don't mind me. I just was alerted by other life. Tampa Bay Lightning head coach John Cooper has named his staff for Team Canada for the Olympics, 2026 Winter Olympics. John Cooper of the Tampa Bay Lightning. As you know, I host the Florida Hockey Show. Before we get to all that, Dave Campbell joins us from Edmonton Elks Radio. Ched, Edmonton. David, hey, brother. What are you guys going by now? Yeah, I'm doing good. I just can't figure out. 6:30 Ched. It's not that anymore. What are you guys calling yourself?
We're 880 Ched now.
880 Ched. Okay.
We just moved down the street. That's all we basically did. So
did you physically move or just move down the dial?
Yeah, just moved down the dial. So same building, like nothing really changed except obviously the frequency changed. Which for me who's worked at 630 for almost 30 years, to go to 880 was a little weird, and there was a little nostalgia there that you kind of were a little sad about. But no, we're the mighty 880 Ched.
I got you. All right, 6:30 Ched. What do you think, Farley? I'll tell you what you think, Farley. Yeah, that never gets old. Hey, just on the breaking news, David. Yeah, exactly. The breaking news. I'm just going to say it. We'll start with hockey before we get to the CFL. After leading Canada to victory at this year's Four Nations Face-Off, head coach John Cooper is getting his same support staff for the Milan Cortina Olympics. Hockey Canada announced today that Bruce Cassidy of the Vegas Golden Knights, Rick Tocchet of the Philadelphia Flyers, and former Dallas Stars coach Peter DeBoer will once again serve as assistants on Cooper's staff. Listen, I'm just going to take a Florida view of this and go, no Paul Maurice? Do you guys not like each other? How do you feel about that announcement from Coop?
Well, I think it's the philosophy of if it isn't broke, don't fix it. This group did an excellent job at Four Nations, which, it's a hard tournament to evaluate because it was such a short tournament. But, I think John Cooper did a really nice job of dealing, especially with all that star power on his roster, and finding the solutions quickly to make that roster work. Because, coming out of that game against the U.S., and we all remember 3 fights in 9 seconds. That was great, but they were pretty stifled. And I thought John Cooper pushed the right buttons in the game against Finland, and then of course the final against the U.S. So run it back and see if they can win a gold medal in Italy.
Really good point. And, I was in Florida when that tournament was going on, and people are still talking about it in Florida. Big part was the Tkachuk and Matthew Tkachuk's role in it and so forth. And John Cooper was the coach for Canada. Dude, they killed it. And they could not have planned for it to go that well. I mean, the Trump thing, the whatever the hell, the anthems, all that came and made it a perfect storm. Plus, the hockey was sensational, right?
It's the best hockey we saw, and since I know people look at the World Cup in 2016, and I'm like, it was a little gimmicky for me. But you go back to 2014 in Sochi, you go back to 2010 in Vancouver. It was just awesome to see finally Connor McDavid play a best-on-best tournament with Sidney Crosby, with Nathan McKinnon, with Cale Makar, and then just to see the power that all four teams really have. But obviously the U.S. and Canada were the best two teams, with Canada winning. And it's going to be fun to see a 12-team tournament in Italy. So it's what we needed, I think. The political stuff really fueled it as well. And this nation always rises when they're kind of pushed around, and we kind of showed that we're not going to stand for being, talked about a 51st state. We're one nation. We don't always agree, but man, when it comes to our national pride, we got it, baby.
Dave, did you ever say that well? You should consider a career in broadcasting because you spoke it very well. You said it very well.
Thank you.
In Canada, it takes a while for us to pump our chest. In America, we do it every day. That's just the American way. That's the difference between the two. We'll come back on McDavid in a second. We got to get to the CFL because it's summer. And what's a guy like you get up to on a bye week as the Edmonton Elks had a bye in week 7?
Well, and I hope you appreciate the extra light because I'm trying to bring in more light around a team that's kind of going through the darkness again. It was just nice to get away from, the routine of football. And I mean, coming off a bad loss, obviously that kind of makes it a little bit more kind of nice to get away a little bit. But they were back yesterday, extra day of practice, getting ready to play the Riders in Regina on Friday. And obviously there's questions about, is Trey Ford or Cody Fajardo going to start at quarterback? The defense, it's baffling how honestly bad they've been this year. So a team that's, it is a new program. The right people are in place. The vibe within the organization, within the walls of the organization are where it needs to be. The culture is going back to where it should be, but the wins are taking longer to find. And I think even, those within the club are a little surprised how I think they knew they were going to be bumps in the road early, but maybe this was a little bumpier than they expected.
I saw it coming. I'm a fan of where they're going. Direction is more important than speed. You're going the right direction, not as fast as you'd like, but at least after years of spinning your tires or going the wrong way, at least you got it going in the right direction. Now, I was on Edmonton radio this morning, not yours, by the way. I haven't been invited there for a while, but another station.
Okay.
And
we'll try and change that.
They asked about the starting quarterback Friday night with the Elks at Riders, and I said, you got to go with Trey Ford because when you sit him down, Dave, I don't think you come back from that. I don't.
Yeah, it's an interesting debate because we're talking about developing Trey Ford. This is his 4th year. And in his first 3 years, obviously there was some interesting drama around him with Chris Jones drafting him, and the reasons why he drafted him 8th overall to begin with. Was it really because Trey Ford was a quarterback, or did he see kind of a gadget type player? Because I remember the day he drafted him, he didn't mention really all that much about his quarterbacking skills. He mentioned what a good athlete he was. But just to quickly go through it, we know that he starts, early in the season in 22 in his rookie year. He wins, then he gets hurt. We don't see him till the end of the year. 23, he comes in when they're 0-8. And he popped and then kind of struggled at the end. And then last year he comes in, popped again after this team was 0-7. They win a couple games. He gets hurt again. He comes back, doesn't look as good, loses the job, and then looks good at the end of the season in the 2 wins against Calgary and home against Toronto. And then obviously Ed Hervey comes in, Mark Killam comes in, Jordan Maximic comes in as the OC, and Trey Ford is the anointed one as the starter, which I agreed with because I'm like, you might as well see what you got in him as a starter, as being named the starter going into camp. Then you bring Cody Fajardo as the insurance. And honestly, I don't think Trey Ford has been awful. I think the first 7 quarters have been, his first 7 quarters were not good. His next 9 were overall pretty good, and the last 4 were not good. The defense, again, I will say, is the biggest issue on this football team. But the thing with Trey Ford is that he's a bit of a dice roll. He's a dice roll, dart throw, coin flip. You're not sure what you're going to get from him. And yesterday they had very limited time on field because it was the first practice after a bye. They ran about 5 offensive plays for the first team, and he ran all of them. I do suspect Cody Fajardo might get some consideration, though, but it's an interesting debate, right? And, this is different for Trey Ford because he's been the starter from day one. And in the development phase, and that's an uncomfortable word, and that's maybe an awkward word because it's like you're in year 4. How much more developing do you need? And he is limited still with the skill set as a quarterback. I don't think he's, when you compare him from 22 to now, I mean, he's a better quarterback, but there's still some things about Trey Ford's game that is a little head scratching. But at the same time, you look at the game last week against the Lions, he underthrew a receiver, which resulted in an interception. He overthrew about 3 or 4 more. The reads were correct. His eyes went to the right spot, but it's the execution, right? So we haven't seen the best out of Trey Ford, I believe. And to your point, I mean, do you lose him if you sit him down? I don't know if you would lose him, but maybe that's the test too, is why should this derail you in your development? Maybe stepping back is what you need if they decide to go the route of Cody Fajardo on Friday.
Well, you always know what you're going to get out of Cody. We've seen it this year in the limited play with Edmonton, high completion percentage and all the rest. You know what you're going to get out of him. And with Trey, it's not just what it does to him, it's the message it sends to the locker room if you don't start him. But the first 3 years of his career, I would say, have been a complete abomination. So let's forget about that. He didn't develop at all for the last 3 years and all the crap that he went through. I'm a Trey Ford fan, but I just think you got to go with the guys you've put in those positions until it's time not to, and I don't think it's time not to yet. Now, you brought this up. Rich in Edmonton writes in, great guy. Where you been, Rich? Haven't seen you here for a while. He says, J.C. Sherritt, your defensive coordinator. Is it too soon in his coaching career to be coordinator? It sure looks like it.
I think there's definite struggles with J.C. Sherritt as the defensive coordinator. A young coordinator who's been in football as a coach since 2019 and was a highly sought-after defensive coach last year, obviously, because he did a good job with the Riders under Corey Mace. But I guess, what we're seeing with JC is I think he's kind of struggling to see where his comfort level is with his play calling to what he has as a defensive unit, which I think on paper is still pretty good. I think that front 6 should be one of the best units in the league. I think their front 4 has played actually quite well. They're just not getting rewarded. Or I'll say it another way. They're not executing, they're not finishing plays. So they're getting pressure on quarterbacks. They actually have been pretty good against the run. Nick Anderson tackles everything. Niles Morgan, I don't think it's been a Niles Morgan type season, but I don't think he's been bad. That secondary, holy smokes. And especially when I don't talk about the whole secondary, but I'm looking at that weak side, with Devondrick Bynum, with Cordell Jackson, even excuse me, Royce Metier hasn't had a great season, in my opinion. On the other side, I think Tyrell Ford has because no one throws to him, and Colby Williams has been up and down. So, and you got a young coach in there, Aaron Grimes, right? So, and this comment was made to me not too long ago about how they defend the RPO, the run-pass option. It looks like they've never seen it before, the way they coach it. So the comment that was made to me with someone very close to the club is just look at what other teams do against the RPO and do that. Just simplify it, okay? So the coaching definitely has a lot of responsibility here in why this defense is struggling. And part of it is, they are young, but there is there is a lot of veteran savvy, especially with that front six, and it's just finding the balance, right? And I think the communication at times is a little spotty. I think they get, when they give up a explosion play, there's a bit of a sag there. But this defense, I mean, they're getting smashed in every single game except the Ottawa game. They played well, I thought, overall. But yeah, this defense is getting smashed, and I think the coaching has something to do with it.
From the audience, Rich in Edmonton says, "I've been holidaying in Quebec, Rod." What? They don't have the internet out there? Can't watch the RP show on YouTube? Shy writes in and says, "Rod, but you're buds with Fajardo." Not anti-Fajardo. We always know what you're going to get with Cody. I'm not advocating not to start Cody, which, by the way, Cody and I are always good. We're brothers in Christ, and Dave knows what that's about. We always got each other's back, so I can speak for him. Yep. He can speak for me. That's what we do. And probably Cody's saying, well, Cody wants to play, but there's no better – well, I would say there's no better team guy than Cody, but here, you know what they'll say? Yeah, but he threw his receivers under the bus when he was here. Probably would walk that back if he could. That started the end of his time here. Yeah, go ahead.
And to that point, I mean, does it sting for Cody that he's not a starter in 25 after winning a Grey Cup in 23 with Montreal? Yeah, it does. But when he was traded here, it didn't take him long to restructure his contract. So I think he saw the vision and was sold on the vision very quickly. And here's the thing with Ed Hervey as a general manager and VP of football ops. He's going to be honest with you and straight with you. Okay, there's going to be no mind games, no head games. If you don't like what he says, at least he's honest with you. And I think that's Ed's best attribute. I think I see it out of Mark Killam. And we had Cody on our post-game show after last week's loss to the BC Lions. We didn't want to talk to Trey Ford. We went right to Cody Fajardo. And he spoke so well about his role as a mentor, about where the team is at right now. He didn't think it was, even though the score didn't reflect it, he felt, Trey played fairly well because his eyes were going to the right spots on the field. He just wasn't executing. This is a great mentor for Trey Ford to have. There's no question. Mm-hmm. And if he has to play, if he's tapped on the shoulder and they say, Cody, get in there on Friday, he'll do it because that's the guy he is, and he will prepare as the starter. He knows how to be the starter. But for Trey Ford, Cody has been an awesome mentor for him.
Rich in Edmonton says, tough call. Do you stick with a young quarterback and see what you got, or play Fajardo, who gives you the best chance to win at this point in time? Well, it's not must-win time. I know they're going to tell you every game's must-win, but not every game is must-win. This isn't the playoffs. This is a different situation than that. Brent in Wellington, Florida writes in, and I appreciate him. I'm going to be calling you later, Brent, by the way. He says, I'm not a big CFL guy, but I sat with some friends and actually watched the Riders game Saturday night. After explaining some of the rule differences, we were impressed and entertained. Oh, my God. Some guy from Newfoundland wrote in here last hour, Dave. He's like, you actually got me watching CFL, Rod. I'm like, well, don't have a gun to your head. I love it. We talk about it. Give it a try, and you'll love it, which reminds me, we got a few minutes here to wrap this up with what I wanted to ask you, that what everybody's talking about in the CFL. What do you think of Luke Wilson, the former Seattle Seahawks Super Bowl winning tight end, now the sideline reporter on the CFL on TSN? I'm calling him the Tony Siragusa of the CFL. Yeah. What do you think about him? Everybody's got an opinion.
Well, he's not afraid to engage on social media, which you and I know can be a very precarious situation. I'd rather not. Yeah, I'd rather not, to be honest with you. But Luke has that personality that I think he can handle. He's got big shoulders. He's got thick skin. Sometimes I wonder if he toes the line of the comfortability of Stuart Johnson, the commissioner. But I think Stuart Johnson has said it. Another guy who just speaks honestly, in my opinion. I think Luke has been good for the league. Watch his videos. I mean, Luke dissecting one play for 9 minutes. And for someone who is a film junkie and a video junkie, I loved it. If you want to learn the game, that's why Luke is so important. That's why Paul LaPolice is so important. And Luke is not trashing the league. Luke, I think, really sees the value of this league. The man works. I was wondering how this was going to work, or this was going to translate. Luke Wilson has been phenomenal with his coverage. He brings insights that make you think, that maybe you haven't heard about before, or just brings it in a way that's, not always conventional, but it's very, very, it makes so much sense what he says, right? He thinks the game very, very well at a very high level. And that's what I enjoy about him. He's funny. I love that he embraces every city he goes to. And does he poke a little fun? Sure. But the man is serious about his craft, and he has a great time. I love him. I think he's been great for the league.
He's speaking from the heart, which I always have too, but that's going to bring some heat. Brenton,
Yep.
Wellington, Florida says borderline controversial, gets ratings. Proven. Like I said, who's the last guy that you said, I can't wait to flip on the TV to see what he has to say? The last guy was Grapes. Like, I love Biz, but I don't care what he has to say. Like, I'm not eagerly anticipating anybody but Luke Wilson on any time. Oh, he's gone. Okay, thanks, Corey. Thank you, Dave. Soupy Campbell. We'll be right back, everybody, with a sports update and viewer takeover after this.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw-up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with the Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw-up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
Welcome back, everybody. It is the RP Show, and we are live on the Game Plus Television Network. As producer Corey says, it's just a couple of shorties the rest of the way. But dynamite comes in small packages. Isn't that what they say? Mandy in Edmonton writes in, and she says, well, Fajardo has God on his side. It's all you need. Kirk in Toronto writes in, he says, hey, Rod, I have the choice between 12 and 2 time slot of watching the Pat McAfee show, First Take, or the RP show. And I choose the RP show every time. Canadiana at its finest. The wild thing about it, that is we're not really even trying to be. It just spills out. Because I will guarantee you that First Take and Pat McAfee aren't talking about this. After leading Canada to victory, sports update for Coolbet Canada. After leading Canada to victory at this year's Four Nations Face-Off, head coach John Cooper is getting his same support staff for the Italy Olympics. Hockey Canada announced Monday that Bruce Cassidy of the Vegas Golden Knights, Rick Tocchet of the Philadelphia Flyers, and former Dallas Stars head coach Peter DeBoer will once again serve as assistants on Cooper's staff for the 2026 Winter Games. Former Stars assistant and Hockey Canada Vice President of Hockey Ops Misha Donskov returns as an assistant coach, while goaltending consultant David Alexander, Director of Performance Analysis James Emery, and video coordinator Elliot Mondu round out the staff. The exact same group led Canada to victory at the NHL's Four Nations Face-Off, the first international tournament to have league participation since the 2016 World Cup of Hockey. So if you want to know why Coop is doing what he's doing, they just explained it. They won it all in the Four Nations Face-Off. They're getting the band back together. Now, I'm going to sit here wearing a Florida Panthers quarter zip. And there will be, trust me, the Panthers fans are always, they're a little bit like CFL fans. What about us? What do you mean by that? What do you mean Paul Maurice isn't on the staff? I thought you were buddies. That's the one thing that I know about hockey, more so than the other sports that I've worked in intimately, football and baseball. Hockey, Pomo will get it. Probably be happy to have a 2-week break. Those are Coop's guys. End of story. Paul Maurice doesn't seem to be the kind of guy that gets offended over things like that. Would you agree? Will some of us stoke the fire a little for ratings? Yep. Speaking of that, where the hell is it? The gentleman, Darcy in Grand Prairie, writes in and says, isn't ratings the idea? That was the point. I mean, I didn't have the support of my bosses at my last job. I got hell for trying to have the riders on the radio on my talk show in the winter, in the off season. We're trying to get ratings. You're the manager of this place. Who got fired? Me. So put down the sword. Stop fighting, Rod. Toronto writer Kevin Gausman will be on the mound tonight when the Blue Jays open an important 3-game series against the visiting Yankees. The Jays, who lead the AL East by 3 games over the Yankees, will counter with lefty Carlos Rodon. Aaron Judge hit the first home run of his Major League Baseball career the day after Alex Rodriguez retired. Now, the two are tied on the Yankees' all-time home run list. Judge hit his 351st career homer in Sunday's 4-2 win over the Atlanta Braves, moving into a tie with A-Rod for 6th in Yankees history. Judge, who's got 36 homers this season, trails Babe Ruth, Mickey Mantle, Lou Gehrig, Joe DiMaggio, and Yogi Berra in career homers. Caitlin Clark, as my friend Chris from the Bronx says, Caitlin Clark is not expected to be available tomorrow night when the Indiana Fever visit the defending champion New York Liberty. Clark missed Indiana's final game before the WNBA All-Star break with an injured right groin and pulled out of Friday's 3-point contest as well as Saturday's All-Star game. And the LA Chargers and Detroit Lions have kicked off NFL training camp. Rookies for several other teams have reported, and all veterans across the league are due this week. The NFL season en road to San Francisco for Super Bowl 60 has begun. The sports headlines are brought to you by Cool Bet Canada. Get a welcome bonus up to $200 with the promo code RP200 at coolbet.com. We will be coming back for overtime right after this, 902-518-3033. Well, I could get into these text messages, but we don't have enough time, so I'll carry them over right after this, everybody. We're live on Game Plus, streaming live, and, of course, found on all major podcast platforms.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with the Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Back at it for overtime, everybody, live from the Golden Ticket Sports Center. Drop in for volleyball and basketball at Golden Ticket Sports Center. Check our calendar for available times and join the fun. Visit GoldenTicketSportsCenter.com for details. And overtime is for our friends at Overtime Hockey Lanes in Calgary. July 30th, we'll be broadcasting a live show. And, yeah, people are going to be coming down live to watch, so that's your chance. If you want to catch the RP show live in person, Overtime Hockey Lanes in Calgary is the way to do it. We're actually very excited about that. They've been open for, 3-4 years? And as they say, the only problem they have is not enough people know about them. And that's why they came to us. So, and if you can't wait till July 30th, go check out Overtime Hockey Lanes in Calgary. Baseball's got batting cages. Golf has driving ranges. Why wouldn't hockey have shooting lanes? Well, we do in Calgary, 28th Street Northeast, Calgary. I appreciate the people going back and forth in the chat, but it doesn't look like it pertains to me, so I'll skip out of that. 902-518-3033 on the Western Dodge text line. New or used, Western Dodge has your next vehicle ready to roll. Visit the dealership or browse 24/7 at westerndodge.ca, the official vehicle supplier to the RP show. Allie writes in from Sherwood Park, Alberta. She says, hi, Rod. Kev and I are watching you from our cabin in Sask. Our favorite memory of Duron Carter is waking at 4 a.m. while in Malaysia for a wedding in time to see his awesome one-handed touchdown catch. We will be at Riders versus Edmonton Friday. We love our CFL. Have a great day. Oh, my God, I could sit and talk about Duron forever. I love that guy. And we all remember the catch. People saying second greatest catch in CFL history. The two best happened in Regina. One at Taylor Field. Remember S.J. Green, the Canada Day comeback, the one-handed grab. Oh, my God. Tight rope the sideline, falling over and with one hand. And then Duron, a backhanded one hand. Oh, my God. That was at the new place, Mosaic Stadium. Just had a tough time telling time, Duron. What can I say? And not that I was tattling on Duron, just as I said, Cody Fajardo and I are brothers in Christ, which we are. We're good. Duron and I are good. But one day we were in Moosomin for an event, which ironically I was just in Moosomin on Saturday. But we were out there for an event, and the local high school football coach wrote me on Twitter. Dexter is his name. DM me, and he's like, hey, Rod, we're practicing at 2 o'clock. Would you mind coming over to watch us practice and maybe speak to the team? I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't mind doing that, but I got Duron Carter with me. You want me to bring Duron? He's like, do you think he'd come? I'm like, yeah. So Duron and I walked from the hall where the event was over to the football field. Wasn't that far, probably about a half mile. And we talked the whole way about things that I won't get into here. But I said to Duron, how's your off-season workout program going, Duron? And I said that last hour. He's like, Rod, I don't work out. And he gave me, think about that for a second. And so anyway, later that night, one of his coaches was at the event that we were speaking at. And I said, hey, did you know that Duron doesn't work out at all? He's like, do you think we don't know that? And this is what the coach said. And he's still the best player in the league. And he still never gets hurt. So who the hell are we? The problem was, ladies and gentlemen, and Duron would not argue this. I'm not telling any tales out of school. And that's why he got cut in Saskatchewan later on. When he got to be one of the older guys, and I've lived this in my own life, once you get old enough where the young people are looking at you and you're not leading the right way, you become a real problem. And that's what happened with Duron. When the young players on the Rough Riders were looking at this guy going, oh, that's Duron Carter. Oh, my God. Chris Carter's son. Played at OSU. He doesn't work out, so we don't have to work out. That becomes a problem. And I get it because I didn't want to be a leader either. Just wanted to do my own thing. Toronto didn't want to be a leader. Just wants to do his own thing. We don't have to work out. We don't have to do the things other people do. That's just a fact. But that becomes a problem eventually. And has for both of us. Laverne writes in from Swift Current. Hey, Laverne, where's Shirley? Laverne says, so Trevor Harris sure looked good. And I think credit has to be given to Saskatchewan's offensive line for that. And I think Vernon Adams is a gem in Cowtown. Going to the game on Friday in Regina, looking forward to seeing the Riders live. Great show. Thank you, Laverne. Well, I know this is the time of year that everybody loves this show the most, I think, because there's not much going on other than CFL and baseball. Mandy writes in and says, Duron, DC likes his chicken wings, but who doesn't? BW writes in and he says, story time, Rod. I got a million. I was on the radio this morning in Edmonton, And we kind of wound up the serious stuff of what we were talking about. And the host, Kevin Carius, my oldest friend in this perilous trade, said to me, well, what do you got going on this week? Tell us some stories. Okay. 1440 Edmonton morning drive time radio, the morning drive. And he's entertain us. See, that's how Luke Wilson and I are similar, whereby Luke, hey, Luke, there's an hour-long smoke delay in Regina. Entertain us, says the host on TSN. And then he does. Do you think it's easy? Da-da-da-da-da. And Luke Wilson did. Goes out and does a pass, punt, and kick contest with the kids, going back and forth with the fans, signing autographs. That's talent, man. That's Luke Wilson. And the difference is, as Dave Campbell said earlier, we stopped with the Twitter wars. That's not winnable. But Luke Wilson doesn't care, and he's putting people in a body bag. Arlen Bruce III writes in, he says, I tried to help Deron Carter. His own daddy can't even help him. Shout out DC. Everybody's tried to help DC. You cannot help someone who does not want the help. And that is the way we'll end the show. There's your harsh life lesson. This has been awesome. Thank you, Dave Campbell. Thank you, producer Corey. Thank you to Scruffy. We'll be back here tomorrow having just as much fun as always, noon Eastern here on Game Plus.
Now I'm the whore and the pimp. That's where the money is.
How about that?